The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Mindset Marketing Mastery, the show that brings you the top speakers in the marketing and video industry. With your host, Marie Mason.
Hi, everyone, and oh my gosh, welcome to Marketing Mindset Mastery with your host, Marie Mason. My lovely and talented co-host, Plinny Phoenix, probably is having a bit of a challenge coming because we're doing a different time and this week, so she will not be here today, unfortunately, but that's okay. She should be back on next week's show, which will be in the first week of October. Oh my gosh, is it me or this 2021 seemed like it's just a blinks and it's gone. And 2020 seemed like it was dragging, right? It was just one of those years that just never would have quit, right? And then once it did, it just sped up. So I don't know. Anyone else relate? Let me know in the chat. But anyway, long story short, I just wanted to sit there and say we have an amazing show lined up for you today. And before we bring up our show guest, co-host, our guest for today's show actually is Mark Hunter, and I would like to actually share some top tips of the week first. So today's top tips are actually about automating your marketing process. Most of what this show is about how to market your webinars and your podcasts and your business, right? How to make sure that you get visible to the public. So let's figure out ways in which you can make that a little easier on yourself so you can spend more time focusing on things like maybe, I don't know, doing the things you like to do in your business instead. So, because I know marketing is one of those scary things that people don't understand. It's not that scary. It's just time consuming, but it also can be shortened a lot. And we've had different guests come on and tell you how to shorten it. And I'm going to tell you how to shorten it even more. So how's that? So first, you need to select a social media or email software. And I'm not talking about social media platforms because there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's TikTok, there's, oh my gosh, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, it's out there. There's Pinterest. Oh my gosh, I probably am missing some. There's so many. I'm talking about software like Social Champ or Amy AI. And I don't necessarily recommend an AI, but it's up to you. Some people want to have that automation, their scripts and stuff all generated, all their posts and stuff. And some people want to control that piece of it. So it depends on what you want to do with that. But choose the social media software that works best for you and your business and use it to schedule that content out so you don't ahead of time. You can also go into Facebook directly and also LinkedIn and other platforms and do it directly. But if you have more than one platform, save yourself some time and just do it on one platform or using one software, and just getting all the platforms out there scheduled at the same time. The other thing is email software. You also want to have an email software to generate your email lists because you want to be able to track the analytics as well. And the one thing about those automated softwares is that they're great for software. They're tracking your who's signed up and registered and who's clicked on something, and you want to be able to track all that process to see who's really seeing your content. And I also have a social media tracker as well for you guys. Maybe you could go to, if you message me at marievmason@gmail.com is my email, and just ask for the social media tracker. I will be happy to send that to you. That's a freebie that I give. So basically, make sure that you also write and edit your copy. Make sure that you spell check it and make sure that things are like your hashtags correlate with your copy. And then also just set the times and the dates and schedule your posts to the software. It is that simple. So that's a simple little process. And if you have any questions on anything about our show, or if you want more information about marketing or about actually launching your webinar, because I really am an event manager and also event planner. So I help you plan and manage your webinar. So please feel free to call me or schedule a call with me, actually, because I don't want you calling my phone because my phone's service is not the greatest at my house. But if you want to go on my calendar and schedule a call with me, please go to calendly.com/Marie V. Mason and let me know if you all have any questions. So let me introduce my guest today. Oh my gosh. Mark Hunter is one of my dear, dear friends in this industry, one of my best friends, actually. Um, Anything I've done in my business, he's helped me behind the scenes more than people ever realize. So please help me welcome back to Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show. And again, I'm still your host, Marie Mason. Our guest today is Mark Hunter. He is a WordPress specialist and digital marketing strategist from Australia. So we are worlds apart, but we are definitely work well together. And he has been a web developer since 2004. He has been in business for over 11 years now, so a good decade already. So he's got lots of experience. He is a certified digital marketer and he runs a digital consultancy called Mark of Approval Web and Marketing. So today he would like to talk to you about this one great topic, which is systemizing your business using tech. And he is awesome at this topic. So take it away. Mark, are you here?
I am here, Marie. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see and hear you loud and clear in a good way.
Awesome. I kind of snuck in a bit early. I kind of snuck in a bit early. I bumped the camera. That's all right. I'm here.
Oh, it's all good. You're fine. It all works out. And the one thing is, I keep telling my audiences, you don't have to be perfect to do a podcast or
Exactly.
do a webinar or do marketing or anything that they're doing. And so, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here because you're the one that got me started on all this, and you get to kind of help me with this piece of it. So, I don't know about you, but I did have a question for you to get
Yeah.
started because I noticed that with each of my guests, I have like a starter question. So I wanted to ask you, what are your 5 daily habits? And they're all in business related too. So it's like, what are your business habits?
All right. So honestly, I don't really have my habits are more formed out of necessity than for the sake of habits. But I always find it helps getting up early, and that's what I typically do. And the first person I ping, of course, and the first person I see when I get up is you. So it always helps to start in a positive mind, and by getting up early and talking to uplifting people, that really, I think, puts me in a good spot. And typically the other things are just more about keeping the energy going. Like my new office, I've got a range. I can now raise the desk because it's a rising desk, so I get to stand up, so I'm not sitting on my big fat butt all day.
Hey, we don't see that. So as far as I can tell, you're fine.
Yeah. And I do go between different workstations as well. I got my, the marble table upstairs. If I feel like I need a break, I need to get some fresh air or whatever. So not always in my dungeon. That's probably two things. I'm sure there's other things I can think of, but none of them are really set in stone in terms of I do them now, yes, but they're kind of necessary for me to function, if you know what I mean.
Right. And I say that because, and you bring up a good point. Every successful person has at least 2 to 5 daily habits that are what they call the non-negotiables. And it's stuff and they call that because it's stuff that they have to do every day to help keep themselves in top shape and also to help keep their business running smoothly. So I was just trying to pick your brain on that because that's what I want to highlight it. And in this particular case. So, if you only have 2 you want to share, that's fine. Because like I said, some of the other ones might be changing depending on your situation at that time. So I get that. My 5 daily habits change yearly, to be honest. And sometimes even more. I don't know. But it just really depends on where you're at and what your space is and stuff like that and what's going on in your life and as well as business too. So that makes perfect sense. So I want to ask you the next question and hopefully I got it straight here. So you one of the things that I mentioned earlier is talking
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the show, we talked about automating processes. And especially like in my case, our show focuses more on marketing and webinars and podcasts and how we go about doing that. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I thought you were perfect for the show because you mentioned something about workflows and processes. So I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to ask you in your title. So I wanted to ask you, how do you differentiate the two? What do they each mean? Because I think not everybody has clarity on what the definitions are.
So a process most people would probably realize as it's kind of a not a routine, but kind of something you do like when you go to acquire clients. The process would be like how you do it. It's almost like a checklist, you know. You might go off on LinkedIn and you might send a certain email for certain people. For other people, they might, you know, reach out to people, then follow up and all those different kinds of things. When I talk about workflows, I'm talking about from a more granular level. So let's say a process for me is building a WordPress website, right? One
Mhm.
of the workflows might be, you know, installing plugins and within that own workflow, how to install them quickly, you know, which plugins to use, all on the micro level. So think of processes as like a high level, you know, maybe 5-step checklist, but within each step, it's all these different workflows and, you know, tactics, that sort of things. That's what I'm pretty well known for is ninja tips for workflows, like, you know, keyboard shortcuts and how to pace this quicker or how to do this activity quicker or with less stress or with, you know, less, make it less mundane. So
Yep, you
that's
were just
sort of
giving
it.
me a tip just the other day. So
I guess
yes,
I'll give you plenty. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So and it's really good to have tips that have processes, especially if they're everyday kind of
Mm-hmm.
tasks, because you want to be able to, if you have to bring on someone
Mm-hmm.
on board to ever take over for you on that particular task, you need to have that process in place so that you can share that how your process is and get
Mm-hmm.
them familiar with it. So that's a very good point. And that's
No,
why we have
exactly.
processes too. So that's excellent. So thank you for
Mm-hmm.
that definition. I always curious because everybody has like different
Yeah.
definitions too, which is really cool. So I'm just gonna get something to drink. But
No,
um,
no problem.
next question is, can you give me an example what you mentioned that about a client acquisition? So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see if you can give me an example of a client acquisition process. I think you touched on it a little bit. But could you expand on it a little bit more? Or
Yeah. So as for a process in terms of client acquisition, I actually don't really have a solid process for that because somehow clients land in my lap and you know for people talking about me all the time. But
I
I
wonder
mean,
who.
you know, I'll probably suggest a few steps within the client acquisition, you know, process. Once they obviously get into your quote unquote pipeline, sometimes clients might forget and then you want to follow up. Now, a lot of people do not follow up. So one of the steps within a process should be, you know, if you do not hear from them, you just simply follow up. Now, what I do, and this is kind of a workflow within the process, is I use Gmail and
Mhm.
I'll actually snooze. I'll actually, if I don't hear from them, I'll mark the email as unread and I will snooze it for whatever date I want to snooze it to. And if they do not reply before that day, it'll come back into my inbox and say it was snoozed. And then I can reply then and say, did you, you know, get back about the XYZ? You know, and likewise with delivering, I was talking about this with a friend. If you're delivering something to a client and getting getting a proposal to a prospect, it's nice to do things ahead of time, be fast, but you don't want to set that precedence that, you know, you're too fast. So you could even schedule, you know, tell them like in 2 days' time, I'm going to send you this proposal, assuming you've already got it created. And then, you know, you schedule it for 1 day early before that 2 days and then say, oh, I got it done earlier in that email, you know, little,
Yeah,
yeah, see sort of ideas like that.
that's awesome. And
Mm.
which brings me to this question, which is sort of a little
Hmm.
off the cuff question is
Sure.
that is how long does it take from when your last email to the next email? For example, what if you're following up with them? What if you've
Hmm.
already finished up with the client and then
Hmm.
you want to be able to get feedback from them, or you want to just reach out and see how they've been, and it's been how much of a window of time does that take? I mean, is that going to in that process? I don't know if I'm asking it correctly, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So when the client is off-boarded, obviously you are welcome to follow up with them and see how they went. So when you're off-boarding them, you might want to, like a two-step process, say, oh, I'd like to know how things went and what you thought of this. And if they reply, you can definitely ask them after they reply. As step two, you can just say, oh, would you be able to, I'd be able to use it as a testimonial, or would you be able to go to my page and give me a 5-star review? As for the timing, it's really up to your intuition and, how you feel about the client, if you feel they'll be agitated if you email them too much. And sometimes they just forget, so it's not a point of them ignoring you. So you really got to use your intuition on that in terms of follow-up. And that's when you create your own process. So I can't give you a process that you can follow. Everybody's process is kind of unique. It can use similar building blocks, but the variables will be dictated by you and your feelings within your own business of how these things run.
No, that's brilliant. I was just asking because I've known that there's some people I've been working with that are students of mine, and some of these questions I am asking you come up with working with them. So that's why I always like to bring up stuff to guests because it gives them a chance to have an answer from someone who's
Mhm.
a little more maybe advanced and stuff like that in their experience. So there you go. So
I would
go ahead.
probably suggest for that one, again, use a snooze feature. So maybe tag those emails if you're using Gmail, tag them, and then snooze them so you don't forget, to follow up with them.
Oh, that's a
So
good
they become
idea.
part of your system.
That way it sort of almost automates that follow-up process, and just don't
Well,
forget to check that.
you could actually automate it by not only tagging them, but actually scheduling with Gmail to go out on this date. The issue with scheduling is if you're scheduling for something that they are supposed to follow up, but they don't, and then the schedule goes out and follows up after they've already reported back to you, it's going to look automated.
Right. So you do have to keep up with it, in other words.
Yeah, you have to, it's about human interaction. You can't remove human interaction totally. That's why when you mentioned about, these tools that automate the copywriting, I'm not a big fan of them either, but sometimes they might be able to give you something you can work with, like PLR, right? You can work with that and write it yourself after seeing the formula. I don't personally do it, but some people might choose to do it that way. As for automating your copy totally, I don't recommend it myself.
Yeah. And I was saying that I didn't recommend the AIs only because it does take out the human feature, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not always relevant to your specific industry.
No.
It's templated, so you really want to be able to. It may give you some great ideas for lack of time, but
Yeah.
like I said, always go in and double check and edit and proofread, and because oh my gosh, even AIs, they don't catch spelling errors and spacing issues and
But also
typos.
typos. But
So yeah,
with people like you and me, it's all about the heart. So when we put a heart into our communication, which can't be automated and we wouldn't want it to be, people feel that. Our clients who, as you said, were specially made for us and we were specially made for them, they feel that. They can't feel it if it's a robot.
exactly. And they know the difference.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping you can hear me okay because I feel like there's a scratchy sound on my
Can you
end.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I just
Like
want to
my
make
scratchy
sure.
voice.
Oh, no, no,
Yeah.
no, it's not your voice. Okay, good. We sound
Mhm.
good according to our radio tech, so we're good. Thanks, Jason. So anyway, wanted just to let you know, what is it what do you believe is this? And I think we've got one more question before we go to commercial break. But
Sure.
what do you believe is the secret sauce for building an effective business where everything seems to run and flow smoothly? And that you're not stuck and paralyzed by just following a checklist, because like I said, you've got the experience, you've been in it for 11 years, and you've got that flow all down and figured out, and you do have your off days occasionally,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
which we'll get into later. So
This
because
is
there's because there's you got to be able to know how to handle those off days. But before
yeah.
we go into the off days, what is it, how did you get to the point where it's run smoothly like a well-oiled machine? So let's start with
Well,
that piece.
I think number one is not to overcomplicate things. So sometimes when you're testing waters, you can't really create the process, you can't create the workflows if you haven't had it proven. So if you're doing something new, you just have to, it's like a science formula. You can't, publish this in the science journal, if the formula has not been approved and it's not working, you have to test it, like getting, I guess, medicine. You have to make sure it's tested. And the other thing is not to overcomplicate, to be very flexible. Some of the things I do, I think, well, this is not going to work in this situation, so I'm not going to be stubborn and, this checklist said you have to do this, so I have to do this. Well, I wrote the checklist and I can, bend the rules. I think that's very important, to just be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And have a team, and you bring on a team who can actually think strategically and be flexible as well. I have a great team, and they think outside the box. And I think that's very important to having a business that runs well.
Right. Exactly. And the fact that you allow your team to think outside of the box, because some people want to put a round peg into a square hole and make everything work like clockwork.
Correct.
It's going to find some friction. But if you are learning to be flexible and allowing people to own that process, give them the process and the foundation and let them build on that process, that's when you're going to find a lot smoother work experience when you're hiring a team. So that's a good point. And maybe we'll even get into some more stuff about the teams aspect too later in the second half of the show. So, oh my gosh. It has been an amazing conversation so far, and I can't believe how much the first half is almost finished. Can you? Of course, you talk to me on a regular basis, so you know how fast it goes. So anyway, let me go ahead and start getting ready to gear us towards the commercial break. I cannot believe it's just that going by so fast. But I want to just say really thank you to Mark Hunter for sharing us so many valuable tips to help our audience grow themselves in their business in their Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show. Mark has agreed to stick around for the second half of the show to answer any of the questions from our audience, as well as continuing giving us valuable action steps and tips, and all on the topics of, and this time I actually got the topic right. Last week I kind of butchered it, but this week's topic, every week is different, let me tell you. But this week's topic is systemizing your business using tech, and that is so important. And maybe we'll even dive into a little more about the tech side too. So anyway, be prepared for drinking out of a fire hose for the next segment of our show. And that ends this segment of our show. And you're listening to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show with your host, Marie Mason, and our guest, Mark Hunter. And we'll be right back. We're going to commercial break now.
We're taking a short break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Marketing Mindset Mastery, the show that brings you the top speakers in the marketing and video industry, with your host, Marie Mason. The show is brought to you by Liberty Virtual Solutions. We work with business coaches and speakers to help them market and host their webinars and upsell their coaching programs and develop heart-centered relationships with their audience. Welcome back to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Show with your host, Marie Mason, a premier podcast that helps you master your marketing skills.
Oh, I just love that beat. So every week, Plinny and I are back here on the video, and we're just dancing behind stage. So, yeah, it's just so much fun. So you're getting me doing the dancing today. So that's awesome. So anyway, I think you're kind of used to it by now. So I will have a few more questions for you, and then I know you got some action steps and a gift for our audience, and I want to give you time to do both, and then we got a little gift for our audience too. We're doing something special for the school season and to help support our school teachers, because I like to give back to our community in any way I can. You know how heart-centered and giving I am. So we'll share that at the end. So hopefully everyone will stick around to hear that wonderful message. But I kind of probably have been jumping around here. So a little bit, because I realize there's some things that were not in some of our first part, but I think they were meant for the second part anyway. So let's just dive into the next question. So let's see. The next question is, how do you, and we talked about in the first one about your secret sauce for building an effective business. So that was really good because
Mhm.
you need to know the good side. But then there's the flip side, which you have those days or, I wish I wonder what I heck I'm doing wrong kind of thing because things just don't always, work out. We had glitches today. We have glitches. Things happen. So how do you overcome those glitches in your business when the days are like, oh my, Lana, I wish I had done something else. You know what I mean? So, or maybe I wish I could have found another solution. So tell us how you kind of handle that process because I know that there's ways to overcome that.
Oh, well, it depends on what the glitch is. If it's a technical glitch, I'm very good at troubleshooting, but sometimes I just need to step away, or I'll get a vicious migraine and start being very sick.
Yeah.
Yesterday it was frustrating because there was actually a glitch with my name registrar, which is Namecheap, and they had a glitch that they went down.
Mm,
And the issue was, and this made me really think, Marie, because my email was spotty for about 2 hours, but the emails did come through. But at the same time, I could not even log into Namecheap if I wanted to even change my MX records, meaning who is in control of my email.
wow.
So when you think about it, it's scary if something goes down like that and you don't have any control. And I really don't have any solutions for that. I was thinking about it, but I really think that was a freak thing, so that doesn't happen that
Right.
often. If it was more than a day or two, I'd really be freaking out. But sometimes you just have to remain calm. I mean, Google went down, I think, was it 2 years ago or 18 months ago for like
Yes.
2 hours?
Everybody. So,
Everybody was like tearing their hair out. I just calmly thought, I'll go away, have a cup of tea, go for a walk, go to the park, whatever, things. Tech usually comes back. Here's the thing. A lot of tech is cloud-based, so they have copies upon copies, and because they're such big companies, they always give you the exit strategy. So if they're going to close down a service, they'll give you time to get your, data from them. It's more like the stuff you buy into that are like startups, like, I mean, I love AppSumo Dev, but they have a lot of startup, applications on there, and putting all your eggs into that basket can be quite risky because those applications are getting launched and started. So those are the things you might want to be, wary of, and stick to, brands you can trust. Well, not trust, but brands who are established. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, etc.
that's a good point because you never, I was actually having a guest on the show and he had a link on the show and I went to go to click on the link recently just to see if it was
Hmm.
still active and it's not even active. So you just never know when those businesses that pop up will stay around and how long they'll stay around. If you remember the 1990s, the dot-com world started to become very popular. And
Yeah.
going digital was, like, really popular. So, you had buildings that would pop up, this dot-com and that dot-com, and this it was like they were flopping and they were switching their names. The name changes were
Oh,
constant,
yeah.
and it was just like you saw it definitely at least in the Virginia area. I could in DC area, but
Right.
particularly the Virginia, DC, Maryland area in the US. Maybe not so much all over the world, but it was
Mhm.
certainly in some places more prevalent than others. But buildings were being businesses where buildings were being bought up and sold on such a I mean, it's like every 3 or 4 to 6 months, there was another new name on some of the buildings. I'm here like, so I
Uh-huh.
guess they went out of business and got another one up. But, so you're right. I mean, that's just something to be aware of.
Mhm.
Can you do some of the work that you do offline as well? So you kind of do need a contingency plan in case you
Mm.
have a glitch. So I was going to ask you, do you have a contingency plan? I know me, I have A, B, and C. Sometimes I work offline
Mhm.
when when online work is not available. And sometimes I resort to pen and paper if I have to. So
Mhm.
my question to you is, do you have a process in place for things when glitches out of our control happen?
Yeah. Step one, go under the desk. Step two, get in the fetal position. Step three, rock back and forward. No, but seriously, Marie, I think
Oh my.
you're right. You can do copy. If you're doing copy, you can do copy offline. You can do brainstorming. Walk around with a cup of coffee, or I don't drink coffee. You don't, but you drink apple cider or whatever.
I drink
Take
tea.
notes.
I
Or
drink tea, energy drinks, and apple cider. Yeah. So
let's say the power goes out, for example. Just go to the shop and have a donut or something. You don't have to panic because of temporary glitches, temporary failures, a lot of people get so anxious when they're disconnected. A lot of people get anxious when they can't get on Facebook and check their messages or ping their friends or whatever. I mean, I don't even have your phone number, so one of the best things probably is people to have their friends' phone numbers from overseas, you know what I mean? In case, you know, I ring you up and say, Maria, are you okay? The internet in America just got hacked by some overseas country, and I can ring your phone and then say, Maria, you okay?
Yeah. But speaking of which, we'll settle that one up later. But long story short, I don't think we want to have our phone numbers advertised
No.
on this program. Then they might be ringing off the hook
Well,
afterwards.
I think that's a good point. You can actually get phone numbers that
Yeah.
go through, you know, like I have a number through Skype. That's not my real number, but it will reach my other phones.
Yeah, I have something similar, and I get stuff filtered through there sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's good to have another kind of business number separate from your home phone number. So, and if you and it's good to have like another like a Google Home for a business or something like that. I don't know, something like that. So it's a good point. And then I was gonna say if you have, I don't know if you really want to do that one yet, but because we got some time left.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, how about we take some examples of some of the stuff, some of the tech, because we did talk about in the title how we're trying to systemize your business using tech. So we talked about software, but I want to go and jump into the world of WordPress because I know
Okay.
sometimes building your own websites can be a little on the scary side, especially if you're new to it. I'm still new. And you're walking me through it in a great way. So I want to sit there and say, how can we use how can we automate some of our processes using like plugins, and what would you recommend?
So one thing I recommend, especially when you're going to get a team on board eventually, the best things for websites are checklists and templates. Checklists being, you know, a set of what, you know, what to do this, how to do it quicker, how to do it in terms of what mark of approval web marketing wants you to do. And templates, like you can get a lot of templates, starter templates online for WordPress using various page builders, and they'll really help kickstart your design. So you're not starting everything from scratch. So just to put that in context for you, I use a page builder called Elementor. I used to use others before that, but it's become one of the most advanced page builders. Now, what I typically do with that one is I can even build a site very quickly with the free versions for somebody who wants, you know, not elaborate website and then don't want to stick around and pay me for my license keys. You know, I can build them something very simple, relatively quickly.
And I know with my website, you use Elementor. Is that the same one?
Yeah, but I use a pro version for you, but you can use a free version as well. I use both for you. And we can use templates as well. And when you create one website, like the website I created for you is very similar to my website in some of its styles. You see, because I can sort of copy some of my styles across to yours and change the blue to purple. Although for you, it was kind of, the process was so ingrained in my head. It was really quickly for me to do it from scratch. But then again, that's not always wise. So sometimes you've got to get that out of your head and onto paper, because I've done it 1,000 times. And then I realized, well, how long does this really take me? And I've never really timed it. I've never really written it down. And, you know, I've done tutorials on it. But sometimes it pays just to, you know, that's where you systemize things when you've done something so many times. And another example, when I'm installing like plugins, I'm thinking, oh, I install these same 4 plugins every single time. How can I make this quicker? So what I'll do is, you know, I'll find a way around that. One way is not, you know, to install multiple plugins at once using a very outdated WordPress plugin by WP Central. Another way is to use a system like Manage WP and upload your plugins to them. With one click, it can install them all. So, you know, there's different ways to do something. You see that takes you time and you get frustrated. Another thing is to have like a skeleton site that you just duplicate every time. So yeah, these are little systems I've come across. What I do is I'm like solution oriented, something that you are too. So when I'm thinking like, oh my God, like, you know, this is a process, or what, you know, this is something that's taken me so it's mundane, basically. I hate mundane. Anything boring, I hate.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all in the same boat on that one.
How can I make this quicker or even automate it? And then I'll go and find a solution. Usually, here's a funny thing, Marie, and I'll say this one last thing before I get to your next question. Sometimes the best solutions I've had are accidental key bumps. Like with Google Docs and Google Spreadsheet, I accidentally bumped one of the buttons on my keyboard once, and it said if you want to use a hotkey, to shortcut your stuff, it says press Alt /. And I thought, oh, so whenever I press Alt / on Google Docs or Google Spreadsheets, you can type almost any command, enter, and it does that command about you have to go to the menu, click this, then click that.
Oh my gosh, you gave us a great tip. Huh?
You highlight the text, you press Alt /, you just type 12, and it'll say set the font size to 12.
Wow, that's impressive. I'll have to go and experiment later. If I do that during the show, it might bore our audience.
And I type them too.
Yeah, or overwhelm them or something like that. So we're not trying to overwhelm them, but that's a cool trick. So, and that's why I learned from Mark, because I learned so many cool little tips and tricks that make my business run smoother and easier, and like a well-oiled machine. So thank you for all those wonderful juicy tips. But I did have another probably 2 or 3 more questions for you. I think we've got a little bit of time left. So.
Sure.
And I can't believe how fast it's going. So anyway, I don't know. It just seemed like it never. It was just
ending with the Gloria. Is it Gloria Gaynor song? Never Can Say Goodbye or something.
Something like that. Anyway, I don't know all the songs names. I just know or even the artists. I just know when I recognize the song, I know it. You just hum along with it and then sing along with it once you learn the words. So that's how I am. So I know you have some tips and action steps for our listeners. And then I also want to ask you, before I even ask you the action steps, I really want to ask you another kind of quick question about that, because you got some really cool things going on. And I want to ask you really two other follow-up questions. One, is there anything that you would do differently in your career? And the other one is, what are your future goals? Because I know you've got some really cool stuff happening, and I wanted to give you a chance to answer both of those questions before we go into our action steps for our audience and your gift.
Yep. So things I would do differently. I would probably actually not try and systemize too early. I'd probably not try and overcomplicate things too early, because that's when disaster strikes and you get caught up in this, mental fog of I have to do X to do Y, but I have to do, Z to do X.
Right.
So I probably would just avoid the confusion and, just glide with it in the beginning. I would probably take some introspection if I had to start again and realize who I am and what I really want to do and what I really want to put out there, as opposed to what other people are telling me to do. I'd probably just be more wise, but in hindsight, that wisdom is acquired through, the teething pains, the bumps and all that. So I wouldn't be here today without that wisdom. So if I went back, it kind of like, been going back in the past and killing my father before I was born.
We wouldn't want to do that. So but that's just more of an example than that one. So I know you well enough. You wouldn't do any of that sort of thing anyway.
I wouldn't go back in time to kill him. No. I wouldn't do that. I don't hate anybody. Just
maybe make a few adjustments on the mistakes you may have made, but other than that.
That's the analogy. I wouldn't make adjustments, because if I made adjustments, that would that would come back to the present and change me by not having that experience.
Yeah.
All I can do now is guide people like you do about mistakes, so they might avoid those mistakes, but I can't, and offer them the tools to not avoid the mistakes. But you can't stop people from making mistakes.
That's true. So I guess that leads me to the other question, which was, you got some cool future goals, and I kind of wanted to give you a chance to bring those up as well. So if you take a minute or two to say that, what your future goals, because I know there's some things coming up too we could even start to talk about too. So go for it.
So my future goal really is to start growing my awareness and brand. I've been hiding away for too long in terms of not really putting myself out there. And of all this kind of workflows, I've come up with the processes of clarity. I thought, instead of, building other people's businesses, why don't I start working on my own? Because then I can give back more freely, I can build that network, I can give back, and I can enjoy what I receive as well. So my goal is to basically be seen more often.
So you're going to get more
detriment.
visible.
Yeah, get more visible and share more of what I do without, fear of trying without fear of how I look or sound or whatever. But that's why I have you, Marie, the mindset.
The mindset coach. Yeah. And I really appreciate you trusting me on that. And I'm really, really glad to see you moving forward in that direction, because I know you have the heart of gold of helping others, but it's like the cobblers and the shoes. At some point, you got to put your own shoes on your feet before you go shoe other people, so to speak.
That's right. And I can see, I trust you because you can just tell you're authentic. And when you know someone's authentic, you can feel that energy. It's an invisible exchange of energies.
Mhm.
You can always tell when something's not quite right with somebody. And even when your gut's screaming at you, and you're telling it to shut up, you always come off second best. You know what I mean?
Now, you can always, I always sit there and say, you can always tell the fake from the real. And just simply by watching what people say, looking and listening to what people say, watching their actions, and then seeing what their results are. What's the fruit on the tree? And if you don't like the fruit on the tree, then there's something wrong. So if you don't follow that format or that formula of being able to see or discern really who's a really good authentic person and who's not,
Yeah.
You might have your own formula in place, but whatever formula you use a formula that sticks and is tried and true. And that's my formula. My formula is I listen to what they say, I watch what they do, and I see the fruit on the tree. And if they don't match with what they are saying, then something along the line, like you said, is just not right. And you've got to discern whether it's someone that's worth working with. And if it is, great. And if it's not, find someone who is.
It's not about judgment. It doesn't mean you're going to assume they're rotten fruit, but it's about being cautious because you've seen these behaviors before.
Right.
And being very careful before you open your heart or extend your hand.
Exactly. And you need to learn to trust your gut in a lot of cases. So usually your gut can give us a good clarity on that. And I say usually. There are a few exceptions.
If your heart gets in the way, that can override your gut. Yeah,
exactly. So and I totally get that. So you I think we've already talked about, but let me just double check to make sure I got my ducks in the row. And so my question is, do you have any final tips on those who are wishing to create systems and processes but are currently on the fence on that? And did we even go into that even? I'm wondering if we did that.
We didn't.
Okay, we didn't go in that. So we just went on a tangent. So
we did kind of mention it indirectly, but I will address it again for this question's sake. As I said,
go ahead? Yeah.
Be aware when it is time to create processes. And document workflows. And it might might be that you're not ready, to create a step-by-step list of what you do, but it might be that you're, considering what you need to know. If you're a service-based business, how do you get coaches? How do you onboard people? And you talk a lot about, Marie, about, your customer journey, and that's seeing things. We're always pivoting, but sometimes it's too early. For example, if you've never had a client before, how can you really create an onboarding system of what to say? And when you do get them and you create that, then you can sort of pivot that. So you have to learn when to actually start documenting something that's kind of working and when to pivot and improve. But most of all, don't, get overwhelmed. It's important you do eventually get them onto paper. Sometimes you have them in your head, and that's good too. When you build a team, if you intend to build a team, you, as Marie said, you will need that. You will need a way to show your team how to do that. One thing is, don't get hung up on the details. Sometimes it's simple as a guideline. In web design and programming, I can't tell you step by step what to do because the results are not, the same thing. I can't say like open up this document and make the color purple, because what if they're using a different document, a different text, a different color? But I can give them guidelines like make sure you have margining, make sure you have words bolded and in the color of your branding, so it'll stand out. I can give guidelines for those things, and then there are other things that are more techie, like setting an email for active campaign. That's when I can give step-by-step details. I think it's important, to give the variables as well.
That's a good point, because sometimes you have to give simpler steps, and then sometimes you have to be a little more complicated steps, but it just depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And we are at the last few minutes of our show, believe it or not. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So it went by super fast. Oh my gosh. I know that you have tools and apps, which I would love to talk about, but we might not have time on this show, unfortunately. So, but we did talk a little bit about the plugins and stuff like that. So that's always good. So my question to you is, you have something you wanted to discuss with our audience and share with us. So is there something you wanted to share with our audience real quick?
Yes, there is. So I am actually running a summit in November, mid-November. It's called the Freelancer Process and Workflows Symposium. It's about how to ready your business. Like if you're just starting out in the freelancing industry or even digital consulting, whether you're scaling or starting out, it's going to help you get that in business into that position you need. So obviously the tickets are not out yet, but if you go to my website, markofapproval.com, I will put a banner at the very top and the tickets are available, and they'll be coming out on Monday. We do have a lot of speakers signing up, and Marie's been helping me, very kindly to find people who would be very great to speak. We've got a good lineup. So it's going to be a big global summit in terms of speakers from all over the world and people from all over the world coming. But it's the power of collaboration with all the team members, and Marie's on this team, all have their own processes in their own businesses, and we're all bringing our processes and our network together to make this huge. And I thank you, Marie, too, for making that possible.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad you were able to bring us all together, and everybody on the team has made a big contribution. And I love how well everyone is working well together, I guess, and how well we're getting along. So that's a testament to you being the leader, actually. So that's just proves it. That's appointments. And the last question before we go to end the show is, where can people find you? Is it just going to be just connecting with you on your website, or can they connect with you like on LinkedIn or someplace like that as well?
Yeah. So if you go to markofapproval.com, you can see my social links in the footer. You can click on them, they'll open a new tab. You can connect with me through LinkedIn there. I have another website called wpstudygroup.com, which I should really put the link there on my own website. But you can grab, a download on certain tools and apps to use in your business.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we actually have to get ready to close the show. I can't believe it. But I know it just seems like we just started, and it's like it goes by super fast. So I know you had already gave us some great action steps and stuff like that as well. So thank you so much for being on today's show. And you can definitely Mark Hunter, you did a great job in helping us to systemize using tech. And that's really important to know when to also systemize too, because you don't want to do it too soon. So it was a great point. So you can also make sure that you grab all of our links on the radio page, w4cy.com radio. And it'll be up on all the other platforms too later on. And also you will be able to grab the gifts that he has, go and check out. And if you want to speak at this, we're always still looking for speakers, at least to the end of this week. And then if you want to be able to go be a speaker, go and register at markofapproval.com and go to the registration page there. And then if you want to attend the event, check back next week. It will be a registration page link for that event. And it's going to be on, we should probably tell them November 5th, the week of November 15th, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Sure. Correct. So we're going to be, that's when the event's going to be held. So you have plenty of time to prepare for that event and plan for that as well. So I cannot wait for that event to come out. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that don't forget to check out our merchandise shop at Marketing Mindset Mastery Shop. We actually are doing a back to school special for the month of August, September, and we will be keeping that available throughout the year because who knows if you're a parent, those backpacks do not last a whole year. I'm just saying. So if you have to replace them, check out our backpacks. They're on our shop. They're really nice and colorful and tasteful, and they also would make yours child's unique as well. And for every backpack that's $45 backpack that's get purchased, we are giving a $5 gift card to a lucky teacher starting in Virginia, and we will make this US wide. So please make sure you go to libertyvirtualsolutions.com/shop. So join us next for our episode for next week for more great tips and ideas and how-tos to make your marketing mindset marketing work for you. And we stream live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure that's the new time so y'all don't miss us. And then we are right here on W4CY.radio. So do make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification button so you don't miss our next show. So until next time, this is Brian Mason and my guest, Mark Hunter, saying goodbye for now from the Marketing Mindset Mastery, and that ends this week's show.
Go to our radio page and check out the gifts from our speakers. We'll see you next time on Marketing Mindset Mastery with your host, Marie Mason.